Hi, Maria here. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to share with you common mistakes that fragrance consumers make. I don't want you to make them. I totally don't want you to make them. So I want to share them with you. And before we get started, if you haven't subscribed, just go ahead and hit that button. Join the Weird and Wonderful family. It would be amazing to have you part of the community. And let's get started. The first mistake that fragrance enthusiasts make is paying full price. If you go to a retail store, you can pay through the nose for a fragrance, whether it be designer or niche. So first of all, make sure that you take advantage of the gray market discount sites. So there's quite a few that are very reputable. In other words, they guarantee that the fragrances are authentic. So I'm not talking eBay here. I'm not talking Amazon. I'm talking about going through the gray market websites where they guarantee 100% authenticity. So there's quite a few of them. I'll have them listed down below. I usually link to FragranceNet, which gives you a decent discount. The other thing to remember with sites like FragranceNet is that they have varying levels of discounts. So sometimes they'll only advertise 25% off, but you can Google and you can actually get a 35% off coupon. Or if you put your fragrances in your cart, a lot of times they will email you a 35% off coupon or a 30% depending. So you can do that with FragranceNet. Other companies have different discount things that you can take advantage of. The other thing that I recommend is if you're buying your fragrances at Sephora, wait for the big sales that they have. So twice a year they do a discount, buy them then. If you're here in Canada, we have Shoppers Drug Mart. If you know a senior or you're a senior yourself, every Thursday you can get 20% off of all your fragrance purchases, makeup purchases, whatever. Every Thursday, 20% off. So definitely take advantage of that. My guess is that Ulta and other companies also have discounts for seniors or things like that that you can take advantage of. So I literally never pay full price for a fragrance. I just won't do it. The other thing is that a lot of times nowadays with niche companies, they give discount codes to influencers. So if there's a specific brand that you're interested in, make sure that you look at some of the top fragrance YouTubers for those discount codes. So I have a few, some have a ton. So definitely check out other YouTubers to try get a deal on those niche ones, because a lot of times they'll have 10% off, 20% off, that sort of thing. The second mistake I want you to avoid is bowing to the hype on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So what happens is nowadays, like fragrances kind of had a major upsurge during COVID. Everyone got interested in fragrance. So fragrance companies now will send out PR. And so, you know, a new release comes and you'll hear about it. It'll saturate the platforms. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about how amazing it is. Now, I'm not saying that because influencers get PR that they're not going to be giving their honest thoughts, but a lot of times it's new. So it's exciting and it gets hyped up. You see it a lot and therefore you associate it with, oh, this must be really, really loved. You can buy into the hype. You can trust the people that you trust. But the reality is that if you're seeing a lot of people talking about a fragrance, it's usually because it's been distributed to a lot of influencers. Not always, but a lot of times that's the case. So you hear the hype for a while and then nobody talks about it anymore because they've moved on to the next best thing. So as a responsible consumer, I want to think about things like, do I need it in my collection? Is it redundant? Am I just buying it because I'm excited about having something new? And none of those things are bad. Everybody's different in what their tolerances are, their thresholds for purchases, their finances, all of that. But I think it's really important that when something is being hyped up on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, you know it's a new release and that they've been given the fragrance. Not everyone is going out and buying that fragrance. So when I give my opinion, I can really love it and like it, but I haven't put my hard-earned coin into it necessarily. Like a lot of fragrances I still purchase myself, but some of the larger YouTubers, they get all of those fragrances given to them. And I don't think that that's bad. I am very grateful for PR. but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're considering you spending your $250 plus dollars on that new fragrance. They haven't. So it's easy to love something, but it's harder to love it if you're putting your own coin into it. So, it doesn't mean that it's not a great fragrance, doesn't mean that it's not worth the hype, but is it worth the purchase, even though it's hyped? So I really, really strongly recommend getting a sample before going ahead with a purchase that's over $100 even. Like, honestly, it's better to get a sample if it's something that you're really interested in. And sometimes it doesn't matter. You want to get it no matter what. You do you. But again, I just want you to avoid being sucked into the hype to be disappointed when 6 months down the road, you never hear about that fragrance again. The other mistake that we can make as fragrance consumers is to try a fragrance, like smell it on a card, and then just write it off. I really, really recommend always, like, you can either write it off or go, oh, this smells amazing, and buy it. I want to discourage flash decisions no matter what. So a flash purchase or a flash, no way, I'm never trying that. Because a lot of times fragrances smell way different on the skin. So I want to highly encourage you, if you're going to purchase a fragrance, don't just spray it on a card and make a decision. Spray it on yourself. Leave for a while, leave for a good hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, come back the next day even, and purchase the fragrance if you love it. For me, I like to actually try fragrances several times. So usually 3 times is a charm for me. I can try it once and, depending on my mood, maybe in love with it, and then try it the next day and go, oh, this isn't quite for me. So I like to try a fragrance about 3 times before I pull the plug and purchase. Not everybody is like that. So again, do whatever you want, but please, if at all possible, try it on your skin, because it's going to smell different on your skin. It's going to smell different on your body chemistry. Some fragrances that smell amazing on the card go so bizarrely weird on me. So, it's worth it to try it on the skin before you purchase. And the same thing honestly goes for a fragrance that I don't really like. Trying it a couple more times can really make a difference, because sometimes you have to kind of figure a fragrance out and it becomes a total love. For me, Amouage Sunshine Woman was one of those where at first I'm like, there's no way I'd buy this. And I ended up absolutely loving it. The other mistake that we can make, and I have made this mistake over and over again, is discounting a fragrance just because of longevity. So again, everybody's threshold is different in regards to how long a fragrance should last. But if we always associate fragrances as they have to be beast mode, we can potentially miss out on some amazing fragrances that would bring us joy that maybe aren't as long lasting. So sometimes, to be really honest, I don't want beast mode fragrances. In fact, I find that I don't gravitate towards my beast mode fragrances very often, because I like mixing it up through the day. I like wearing one in the morning. I like wearing one in the afternoon, one in the evening. I like switching it up. So really, how much longevity do I really need? So I love it if a fragrance projects, but as far as longevity, is it really that big of a deal? Again, everybody's different in what they think, but a lot of times I do want to switch it up halfway through the day. So having a fragrance that lasts 4 or 5 hours, honestly, that's all I really need. So if it just becomes a skin scent right away, that's a deal breaker for me. But if it's like a 3 or 4 hour long wear fragrance, and I get a decent scent bubble out of it, I'm actually good with that. I've been less good with that though in the past. Like in the past, I'm like, no, it needs to have a certain amount of longevity, especially if I'm paying a certain amount of money. Still, for me, it's a bit of a balancing act, but I've gotten a way less caring about that little detail. The other mistake that we can make is to assume that niche is better than designer. Designer a lot of times has fragrances that are mass appealing, but not always. So Mugler fragrances, they are more niche as far as being a little bit different. not always palatable to everybody. Fragrances like Decadence by Marc Jacobs, definitely its own thing and more niche-like. Now, with niche fragrances, you get a large variety. And what I find is you start in designer, you'll start to run out of options, and then you start delving into the niche, and it's this huge rabbit hole of awesomeness that a person can go down. But to just assume that something that's more expensive is better or more high quality, I think is a huge mistake. A lot of times you're paying for a name. A lot of times you're paying for prestige. So you're not necessarily paying for quality. I have some designer fragrances and some celebrity fragrances that to me hold their own with any other fragrance. For example, the other day I had my friend Carlotta come over, and she was smelling, hi Carlotta, I don't even know if you watch my channel, but hi Carlotta. She came over, she smelled a whole wide range of fragrances. She has purchased Creed. It's not like she's got a novice nose that doesn't know quality. She smelled, I let her smell about 10 or more fragrances. I let her smell some of my most high-end, expensive fragrances and some of my more affordable fragrances. So just a mix. She had no idea which was most expensive or not. And one of her favorites was Quatre by Boucheron. So that one is about $50. And out of all the ones that she smelled, that was the one she gravitated towards. So to assume that you have to spend a lot of money to smell absolutely stunning and amazing is a huge mistake. You can get something, every category, every price point, every affordability can have something that smells phenomenal. So you don't need to spend a lot of money to smell good. And please do not assume that just because it has a high price tag, that it's better than something that's less expensive. Really, it's all subjective, and it's all about what you really love. So if you love that celebrity fragrance, you rock that baby. The other mistake that you can make is to trust an expert and somehow think that your experience with the fragrance is wrong. So sometimes a fragrance will be mass appealing to many people, but that doesn't mean that if you hate it, there's anything wrong with your nose, that you're maybe less mature in your nose or anything like that. It's all subjective. The way our brain perceives fragrance, we're all over the map, and some will like one thing, others will like another, but there is no right or wrong in fragrance. There's nothing wrong with loving your body sprays. There is nothing wrong with loving something that's green or challenging or whatever. There's nothing wrong with not loving a fragrance that everyone else loves. You are your own unique person, and what you love, no matter how, like even if thousands of people love that fragrance, you wear it and you rock it and you'll smell amazing. There's literally no right or wrong to fragrance. Like I saw this one skit on Saturday Night Live or something like that, and they were doing this wine testing, and the guy was like, there's no right or wrong. And so this lady, she takes a sip of this drink. He goes, I get some peach. Yes. And then the girl goes, I think I get blackberry. And the guy just looks at her and goes, no. Like this. And so everything this one girl says is wrong, and the other one, everything is right. It works very similar with fragrances. Our noses perceive different things. Our brains perceive different things, and we like different things. So it's one of the things that I love the most about fragrance is how uniquely we each perceive a fragrance, and our interaction with it is different for each one of us, or slightly different. I love seeing reviews and the creativity around reviews, because we all perceive something slightly different in fragrance, and I find that very beautiful. I find it reminiscent of how different and unique each one of us are. So you are never wrong. What you smell in your experience is your experience. It's just as valid as the next person's. And really, there are no experts. Like, yes, there are people that are qualified, like sommeliers. There are noses that are great at creating perfumes. They are well studied. They know the notes. I've met some people like that, and I just think that they're amazing to learn from. But for us average Joes, and that includes all of the reviewers out there, we are all just experiencing the perfume just like you guys. And the last mistake that I want you to not make is to not revisit a challenging fragrance. Some of the most challenging fragrances are the ones that I revisit the most often. I don't know why, but I just think to myself, if it's my nemesis, I want to see if I start to change and shift. There's lots of fragrances that I started into this perfume adventure with that I thought were amazing, that I don't love as much as now, and other fragrances that I didn't like at all that now I'm loving. So I never loved green fragrances. Now more and more, I really enjoy a green fragrance. I used to love only sweet, fruity things. Now I love a little bit more less sweet. I like a wider variety of things. So the more I smell, the more my perceptions kind of shift and change. So even Black Orchid, which to me is the zombie queen of the apocalypse fragrance, you wear that if you are the undead. I know some people find it sexy, but I think that it smells like death breath. I don't like it, but I keep sniffing it because I'm like, what am I missing that others are getting? Because I find that fascinating. That is my fragrance nemesis. That said, like I said, Amouage Sunshine Woman, didn't enjoy that at first. Now I love it. Love it. Like, not just like it, love it. Amethyst by Lalique, when I first smelled it, I'm like, what is this? I can't even stand it. And now I love it. So there's lots of fragrances like that that I would have missed out on if I would have smelt it the few times that I did, wrote it off, and never went back to it. So I always encourage you, try different fragrances, and even, I was going to say brain chemistry, even body chemistry. Our hormones and our body chemistry and the weather and everything, what we ate, all of these things can change the way it smells on our skin. So just because it smells a little funky the first time you smell it, doesn't mean you shouldn't try it another time. That's another note that I'm all over, is a little bit of a skanky, oudy, challenging barnyard feel. I used to think that smelled like poo. And now I just find it really sexy. And I don't know if that's degrading or evolving, but nevertheless, my nose or my tastes keep shifting and changing. So don't discount fragrances you haven't liked in the past. And that is it. What about you? Are there things, pitfalls that you think of that I haven't mentioned that we need to be wary of? Put them in the comments. I'd love to hear about them, and tell me whether you agree or disagree on these. And other than that, I hope you have an amazing week, and we'll talk to you soon.